Okay, so think about a phrase, something you probably say or hear all the time. Super simple, sounds efficient, like, hey, let's just jump on a call. Seems harmless, right?
Yeah.
Just a quick way to connect. But what if, for some people, that little phrase isn't just, an option? What if it's actually a huge barrier? Like invisible, but massive. A
Yeah.
total deal breaker that doesn't lead to connection at all, but the opposite. Exclusion, misunderstanding.
It's such a stark contrast, isn't it? What
Yeah.
feels easy for one person is like an impossible wall for someone else. And that's really what we're diving into today. These really subtle but crucial communication differences, especially in spaces that say they're building for neurodivergent people. We're going to explore how sometimes, even with good intentions, inclusion can actually turn into, well, erasure, or this thing we'll talk about called access theater.
Right. And to really get into this, we're looking at a specific story, a real experience shared by Jaime Hoerricks. Jaime is autistic and also a Gestalt Language Processor, GLP, we'll probably call it. And she shared this experience trying to engage with a tech founder who was, ironically, building for neurodivergence, a perfect case study for us.
Exactly. So our mission here is to unpack what this one incident, this interaction, tells us. Not just about different ways of thinking and knowing, but about these, like, subtle harms that often fly under the radar. We want to figure out what real effective inclusion actually looks like, beyond just the marketing spin.
Okay, let's dive into the incident itself. It starts with this solo tech founder, let's call him Andy. He's building a scheduling app. And the goal seems great, helping neurodivergent folks with executive function, planning, staying on track. Seems positive, right? So he asks the community for input.
Yeah, he put out a call saying something like, if you have ideas that I like, let's jump on a call.
Ah, there it is. That phrase.
That exact phrase. And Jaime Hoerricks saw it immediately, recognized the potential issue. So she responded very carefully, very briefly. Just offer this little piece of critical feedback. She wrote, that phrase alone, jump on a call, is a deal breaker for many of us. And she added a couple of emojis like, ugh.
So, not aggressive, not a huge critique, just a flag.
Exactly, like a breadcrumb, as she put it, a quiet but really necessary truth about access. She was pointing out that for many people, especially GLPs, these live, spontaneous calls, they aren't just, like, annoying. They can be genuinely inaccessible. A barrier so high people won't even try. It's systemic.
Okay, so she offers this gentle heads up, this insight, and what happened next?
So this is where it really demonstrates the problem. Andy's reaction, according to Jamie's account, was not great. Immediate defensive. And it escalated to being offensive. He apparently questioned her credentials. He seemed totally confused about what GLP even thought it was like a tech thing, a programming language.
He confused Gestalt language processing with like Python or something.
Apparently so. And he mocked the idea of her being a GLP elder.
Yeah.
He also seemed annoyed she mentioned her PhD, which was just, in her bio, not something she was blasting.
Okay.
Basically, he completely dismissed her lived experience and her expertise.
That's wow. And then it gets worse, doesn't it?
It does. The sort of final act was he just deleted the entire conversation thread. Poof. Gone.
Deleted it. Why?
His justification. He claimed Jamie's input was not relevant to the conversation.
Not relevant. She was the conversation he was supposedly trying to have, the neurodivergent input he asked for.
Exactly. The irony is just staggering. As Jaime said, he silenced the very perspective he claimed he wanted to serve. That's erasure, plain and simple.
Okay, this really highlights the need to understand what GLP actually is, because clearly Andy had no idea.
Right. And it's crucial. Gestalt Language Processing, GLP, it's not an academic badge like he thought. It's a fundamental way people process language. It's deep. For GLPs, language isn't just like a tool you use. It's woven into how you know things, how you are in the world.
So how does that differ from what most people might consider typical or analytic language processing? Can you maybe paint a picture? Like, what does processing asynchronously feel like?
Okay, well, think about it like this. Analytic processors often build meaning sort of word by word, sentence by sentence, like stacking Legos logically. GLPs often acquire language differently. They might pick up whole chunks, whole phrases, gestalts, often tied to experiences or emotions. Think maybe song lyrics, lines from movies, things people said. So understanding doesn't always happen in that real-time linear back and forth. It builds in, as Jaime describes it, echoes, loops, relationally held language.
Echoes and loops.
Yeah. So communication might come out using those stored phrases, metaphors, scripts. It might not follow the expected A to B to C pass. It's still clear, just a different kind of clarity.
Which brings us back to the call thing. Calls aren't just unpleasant, they're inaccessible.
Exactly. For someone processing like that, a live, unscripted call demanding immediate, linear responses, it can be overwhelming. Jaime calls it a barrier so high we don't even attempt to climb it. And that's not being difficult. It's not a preference like liking coffee over tea. It's a genuine barrier that leads to exclusion. Missed jobs, missed connections, missed input. It's systemic.
And the way Andy reacted, dismissing and deleting, it feels like that's part of a larger pattern.
Oh, absolutely. That's the really heartbreaking part Jaime points out. This is so familiar for many autistic GLPs. They share their experience, maybe in a way that's nonlinear or uses metaphor or connects emotionally, and they get read as being off-topic or disruptive or, like Andy said, irrelevant.
Even when they're speaking directly to the topic from their own valid way of knowing.
Precisely. The problem isn't that their communication is unclear. It's that, as Jaime puts it so well, our clarity doesn't sound like theirs.
Which leads to this idea of epistemic harm. It sounds academic, but the impact sounds really painful.
It is. Deeply. Epistemic harm is basically invalidating someone's way of knowing, dismissing their knowledge because it doesn't fit your expected format. So when a company says, we're building for neurodivergence, but then deletes GLP voices when they offer input, that's not just a slip-up. It's, as the source says, quiet, structural, and avoidable harm.
Quiet harm. I like that description. It doesn't leave obvious marks.
No bruises, right. But Jaime says it leaves traces. In the job we didn't apply for, the tool we never used, the support we stopped seeking. It's a slow erosion of trust and connection.
This sounds related to the double empathy problem we sometimes talk about.
Very much so. We usually frame double empathy as the gap between, say, autistic and non-autistic understanding. But James' experience really highlights it between analytic and Gestalt language processors, too. When the dominant system, the analytic one, can't parse our form, they dismiss the content. It's like they can't read the language, so they assume the message itself is meaningless.
Like trying to appreciate a painting by only analyzing the chemical composition of the paint.
That's a great analogy. You completely miss the art, the meaning, the feeling.
And Andy's confusion over GLP elder, that term itself seems to reveal a clash in understanding values, doesn't it?
Totally. He projected his own ideas of status and hierarchy onto it.
Yeah.
But within the GLP community, elder isn't about power or being better than, it's about stewardship. It recognizes someone who's navigated this way of being for a long time and actively works to make the path easier for others. It's about lineage, mentorship, holding that knowledge.
Not self-aggrandizement, but responsibility.
Exactly. Responsibility and community connection. Very different from the metrics Andy seemed to value.
This also seems to connect to why GLP is still kind of marginalized in the bigger picture of autism research and support, which leads to this really fascinating part of James' story involving an AI.
Yeah, this is wild. So Jaime actually used an advanced AI, one of those large language models, to ask, why is GRP so overlooked institutionally? And initially, the AI gave the standard kind of dismissive answer you might expect.
What did it say? Like, needs more research?
Pretty much. That it lacks empirical support, it's conceptually vague, doesn't fit neatly with the dominant analytic models, the usual stuff.
Okay, standard institutional line.
But here's the kicker. Jaime pointed out that a lot of this critique actually originates from, or is amplified by, the ABA applied behavior analysis world. And ABA often has, well, financial and ideological reasons to push back against GLP, because GLP focuses on natural language development and meaning, not compliance. Think about researchers like Barry Prezant, whose work decades ago showed echolalia wasn't meaningless repetition, but a key part of Gestalt processing. His work was sidelined for a long time.
So vested interests were shaping the official view.
That's the argument. And what's incredible is what the AI did next. When Jaime pushed back with this context, the AI, it actually changed its tune. It learned.
The AI learned.
It acknowledged the issue wasn't just about lack of data, but potentially epistemic gatekeeping. It recognized that the very structures funding bodies, training programs, journals, might be biased towards analytic models, effectively pathologizing or ignoring Gestalt processing before even trying to understand it. As Jaime put it, the bot, the AI, was more willing to learn than the human founder who claimed to be helping neurodivergence.
Wow, just let that sink in. A machine showed more openness than the person building the tool.
It's a pretty stark commentary, isn't it?
So bringing this all together, how do we move from this kind of superficial branding for us to actually listening?
Well, Jamie highlights this recurring issue in neurodivergent tech and coaching spaces. People build things for us, but don't really know who us fully includes. They often, as she says, build fast, brand hard, and listen late, if at all.
So what does genuine access look like then? If jump on a call is out, what's in?
Imagine flipping the script. Imagine a tool, an app, anything aimed at neurodivergence that starts by asking, how do you prefer to communicate? Not buried in settings, but like step one.
That seems simple yet revolutionary. What would that look like in practice?
For that scheduling app Andy was building, maybe it defaults to a writing-first intake, recognizing that many people, GLPs included, process information better, more deeply, when they can write and read asynchronously. Founders could start seeing asynchronous communication, like email or text chat, not as a concession, but as a design principle, building it in from the ground up.
Instead of forcing everyone into the phone call box.
Right. Which brings us to access theater. Jamie uses this brilliant Google Voice example. You carefully write out an email inquiry, then you get a voicemail back asking you to call them, and then Google Voice helpfully transcribes that voicemail back into text for you anyway.
Oh my gosh, yes, the runaround.
It's this full circle of unnecessary translation, she calls it, just so the other person can stick to their preferred channel, the phone call. It's exclusion disguised as protocol. It's exhausting, and it shuts down real engagement for people who can't easily do the call part.
It's performative access. Looks like help. Feels like a hurdle.
Exactly. It's making the person seeking access do all the contortions.
And that brings us back to Jamie's original comment. That simple phrase, that phrasing is a deal breaker. She wasn't just talking to Andy.
No, that was a signal flare. A message to other GLPs in that space. A shared nod of recognition. It represented years of, like, jobs they couldn't apply for because the first step was a screening call. Systems they couldn't navigate.
Yeah.
Allies who meant well but just wouldn't bend on communication methods.
The heartbreak isn't just being shut out.
It's being invited in, seemingly, only to be handed that Calendly link, that demand for a call. Being expected to show up, flounder, and call it access, when really it's just demanding performance, forcing someone into a communication mode that fundamentally doesn't work for them.
So wrapping this up, the big takeaway seems to be GLP isn't invisible because it's rare.
No, it's invisible because our dominant systems, academic medical tech, often just don't have the framework to see it or hear it properly. They struggle with the form of communication, so they dismiss the content.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a really important question to chew on.
Yeah. How many potentially brilliant ideas, crucial insights, or even just human connections are you missing in your work, in your life? All because of unspoken assumptions about the right way to communicate, the standard way.
What opportunities slip away when we don't just pause up front and ask that simple question, how do you prefer to communicate?
And how can we, in our own lives, our own workplaces, start moving away from that exhausting access theater and toward designing interactions, systems, maybe even relationships that are truly, genuinely inclusive from the start?
Something to think about.